Hey, how's it going? So my name is Jimmy Walker. I'd asked Andrew if I could give y'all a video tutorial so you can see, a little bit more in depth on how to do some of the stuff in Unity. Uh, he was more than happy to let me do this, and so therefore I'm more than happy to show you. So this is the windmill. It's not exactly what he has, but basically, like you can walk through on his instructions. But if you get a little lost, you can always come to this video. I'm going to show you a little bit differently on how to do it. This essentially is what we're going to be making, a very simple windmill. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. First thing we want to do is we want to make a cylinder for the motor. And the way that we're going to do that, in fact, let me go ahead and rename this real quick. Windmill start. There we go. So, because what I need to do is I need to make sure I have the cylinder selected. I'm going to go ahead and change the height segments to 3. Because that's what he has. So I'm going to press build. I'm going to move this down towards the base. I'm going to press F on the keyboard, and that will frame in on my selection. In this case, this whole cylinder. So the next thing I want to do is I actually want to go to edge selection. You can do this. You can either do this from edge selection or whatever you feel more comfortable. Whatever you feel more comfortable with, basically. But actually, now let me go into vertex. That'd be a little bit more fun. So I'm going to select all these bottom vertices. If you try to drag and select, but let's say you go around it and you have unselected vertices, all that is if you look over here under the Probuilder tab, you're going to see this little option that says select hidden, and more than likely it's selected to off. So if you do this and you look back there and you see that you have unselected ones, that's probably what's going on. So I'm going to select these bottom vertices, all on the bottom. I'm actually going to scale those out just a little bit. And then I want to go into edge selection. I'm going to hold down shift and double. Oh, come on. There we go. Not shift, control. Still used to Maya. So anyways, I'm going to hold down control. I'm going to select this whole edge loop. I'm just going to bring it down. And then I'm going to double click and select this whole edge loop. I'm going to bring this up. Now we'll go into vertices. We're just going to select all these top vertices and make sure that's all we have. And we're going to scale this in. Now, for me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, that looks like a decent motor. But let's say you want a little bit more flair to it. If you come here to face selection, and let's say we select all these faces. You can do this under the Move tool, or you can do this under Scale tool. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go and start with the Scale tool. I'm going to hold down Shift, and then I'm going to scale this in. This will automatically extrude whatever faces or edges you have selected. Actually, I don't know if it works for edges. I've never tried it for edges. But it'll basically extrude whatever you have selected. So, one little trick that you can do with Probuilder. I find it rather useful. So for the next part is what we want to do is we want to be able to attach the blades to these. But let's say you want something that actually houses this. So, what I want to do is let me go and create a new cylinder. They actually show you how to do this a slightly different way. You can follow the instructions. I'm just going to show you how I basically do it. First thing I want to do is make sure that these two are lined up. And if you're wondering how I just did that, whatever object you have selected, if you click on this, it'll take you to the top view. But obviously, it looks, like you're still in 3D. Well, the square right here, if you click on that, this will actually put you into orthographic mode. So you can easily look around and see, everything from a dead-on view. It can be very helpful whenever you're trying to set up certain scenes or you're trying to line up certain elements. For the time being, I'm just going to move up out of the way. I'm going to click on this. And one thing I forgot to do is change the height segments to 0, but that's not a problem. I'm just going to select. Okie dokie. Okay, so that failed epically. There we go. And now I shall hit build. Awesome. I do not need that one. There we go. So after that failure of epic awesomeness, we can go and get back to it. So what I want to do is I actually want to scale this out and scale it down. Or actually don't do scale. The reason why you don't want to do scale because then it actually stretches out these textures. I actually almost completely forgot about that. So let's go and select face. And by selecting the face and scaling, you'll see that also scales the textures with it. So that's what we're going to want to do. Make sure we have everything selected. We're just going to scale this out. That's probably a little large, so let me go back in here to perspective. I'm just going to move this over this where it's about lined up. I'm going to scale this down, right about there. Perfect. So I'm going to move this out just a little bit. And you can shape this any way you choose. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm just kind of doing this just as a quick demonstration on how you can make these two overlap. But once again, that's completely up to you. This right here will actually be a child of this object. So what we want to do is we want to create an empty object, and this is what will be set to animate with. Later. This will be the motor housing. Now, also, I want you to keep something else in mind. That I'm just naming these as a default convention. Please. I'm just doing this as a default naming convention. They actually have it named something else. So you don't have to follow my naming convention. I'm just kind of doing this to help me keep track of where I am. So the next thing we want to do is we're actually going to want to create a cube. And we're going to do this by coming to the top view. I'm going to force orthographic mode. And I don't know what he has set for the size, so I'm just going to guess. For the X, I'm going to say 3. Let's do 5. 5 looks like a safe number. So I'm going to press build. And the next thing I want to do is I actually want to come in here to face. Make sure just this front face is selected. And the next thing I want to do is I want to come in here to extrude faces. I'm going to press that. In the distance, I'm going to set to, 5, because that's what we had set over here. And I'm just going to do that twice. And there we go. So the next thing I want to do is they don't show this. This is just a little extra step that you can do to make it look a little bit better. So you're going to scale these in. And then these back ones, we're going to scale these in as well, but we're not going to scale them in as much. Probably right about there. Somewhere in there. I'm going to select all of these UVs, or not UVs, but vertices. I'm going to twist. Then I'll deselect those. Twist. Then I'll select just these in the back. I'm going to twist. So this will give us a nice curved blade. You can do however you wish to make it look more bladey-like, I guess. I don't know what the proper term for that would be. So after that, we want to make sure that we have center pivot checked. In fact, we really want to do this for this as well. Make sure that everything is centered. There we go. And so now is what we'll do. Let me go back up to orthographic, or top view orthographic. I'm just going to move this in place. Probably somewhere around there. Right about there looks good. So then I'm going to move this up. Now one thing to keep in mind, if I turn this off in the inspector, you'll kind of see this. But you can see that this is kind of sticking out some. So might need to move it back some, get this about even. And all I'm going to do is just scale this in just a little bit. I know I told you not to scale earlier, but doing a small amount like that won't really affect the UV mapping on these. Well, it'll affect it, just not a whole lot where it'll be super noticeable. So what I want to do is I want to duplicate these. I'm going to go ahead and just name these Blade 1, Blade 2, and can you guess what I'm going to name this one? You guessed it, Blade Trinity. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is, because this is the motor base, this is actually what's going to be turning, and this is what will be spinning all the blades. So what we want to do is we actually want to drop this and make this a child of this. And then by clicking here, I can move this down, and for the rotation on the y-axis, I'm going to put down 120. After that, I can bring blade 2 up here to the motor blades, and I can change this to 240. And then we'll take Blade Trinity and we'll add this to it. And so now, whenever we rotate this, oh, and by the way, if this comes up like that, just make sure it's centered on here and not on pivot. But now whenever we rotate this, as you can see, we have a nice rotation. So the other nice thing about having all these as child, now you can also pivot this any way you choose. So that's not looking half bad. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create a base. Now he has just a narrow pole all the way up and down. As you can see, mine has a bit of a base here. You don't have to do this, but if you want to learn how, basically it's a real simple process. I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to create a cylinder. I want to make sure 0 on the segments, and all of this can stay the same. For a little bit extra optimization, you can change this from an 8 to a 6. Completely up to you. So let me go into vertex. Those can go down. These can go up. We'll make it super tall. We'll make it the tallest windmill that this class has ever seen. I don't know why that's important. Oops. Oh, that's why, because I'm in the wrong mode. I was like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, there we go. Alright, so once again, this is where orthographic views come into play. So if I just click on this Y up here and click on this box, I'm going to force it back into orthographic mode. Press F on the keyboard to frame in on what I have selected. So there's my base. I'm going to move it right about there. You can click on here to move into the side. We're just going to drop it straight down, and we can get out of orthographic mode. So that's how you can do a simple pull. If you want to take it up an extra notch, what we'll do is we'll go into vertices. We're going to make sure we have all these vertices selected. We'll go ahead and frame in on that. So is what I like to do, because windmills usually have a wider base than they do a top. So by just scaling out the bottom of it, it gives it a slightly wider base, and it has a, it kind of scales whenever it goes towards the top. And it's just a little extra you can do. You don't have to do this. It's not mentioned in the assignment, but it is a little extra that you can do. Next thing we want to do is go into face. And I'm going to select all of these faces. Oh, my apologies. So with all these faces selected, as mentioned before, you can hold down Shift and then scale, and that will automatically extrude those faces. And I'm actually going to do that one more time where I hold down Shift, and I'm just bringing this down. As you're moving, you can let off Shift. That's not a problem. So I'm going to make this a little bit wider as well. And there's our base. And there's our lovely windmills. So last thing is what we're going to do is we're going to take this main component and we're going to make it a child of the cylinder. I'm just going to name this windmill base. So by having these as children of this lovely pole, is what that allows us to do is if we click on this, we can move the whole object as one unit. As you can see, I've also done that here as well. And when it comes time to animating, we can just come here to the windmill animator, and we can just spin this like so, and everything spins smoothly. If you get something like this where it is spinning way off like that, all you have to do is make sure that this is from center to pivot. So that's one thing to really keep in mind. That's why he even brings up on the instructions for this assignment. Next video I'm going to go and I'll talk a little bit more about that. The last thing I want to talk about, if you look at this base, that's actually something that I really messed up on. So an easy fix is just to grab these and then just move them back over this way. Real easy fix. And move them back this way where everything kind of lines up again. But yeah, that's basically where I messed up with that. Is just because I didn't check my pivot. Had I checked my pivot, I would not be in this mess. Oh, that was too much. Okay, there we go. Alright, awesome. So that's going to basically do it for this tutorial. The next tutorial I'll cover will be on animating, creating animation events, and how to kind of spruce up your scene. So I'll see you there.